16. I just walked in the door. I had to... Okay, sorry about that, guys. Hold on. I'm going to turn my phone off. Okay. Yeah, I was out in West St. Louis, had to drive an hour, and as I'm driving, I realize it's going to be 10 o'clock, and there's no way, and then my phone starts ding, 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 and the people start calling it. I'm going to change this thing just to say daily updates. So there's no set time. And I'll put out an update and let people know when I'm going to do the update, because setting it at 10 p.m., I don't know. This was not the intent of the live stream. The intent of the live stream was to have it documenting just really kind of to keep up with the forecasts so that people could understand where earthquakes are striking. The nightly updates thing has developed out of that, and I don't know if that's working out or not. For some people it is definitely, but I'm going to have to break it in half and do one in the morning for people in Europe, because people in Europe were contacting me telling me, look, it's kind of really hard for me to tune into you live, and since it's not being saved, can you possibly do an update in the morning? And I'm doing the update at night, and then the update in the morning, and then I'm doing this all day, and again, I wasn't the intent of the live stream to begin with. It was more of a place for you guys to be able to hang out while we're documenting earthquakes. But that all being said, let's just quickly get into what happened since last night at 10 p.m. Now, I got on this morning. Many people probably missed that, so we'll just go over everything that happened since last night. And, of course, we were talking about the possibility of new movement over here in the West Pacific, north of Japan. And right off the bat, that's the one we're going to go into first. Kuril Island struck by a noteworthy 5.3 earthquake, very close to a dormant volcano. There's several there. There's at least 24 different volcanoes in this location. And again, movement was expected to strike there to the north, larger movement to the north, smaller movement to the south, and that's exactly what's occurred over the last 24 hours. Now, we're just looking at the USGS feed, so it's somewhat incomplete, and we'll get into that in a second as well as to what other feeds we have to look at to get a better idea globally. But secondly, in the United States, we saw a new 3.7, 3.6 now downgrade earthquake. Maybe there was another. Oh, okay, 3.9 as well, struck in Oklahoma at the fracking operations. So, borderline 4.0 earthquake, just as we were talking about, we were telling everybody to watch for that, has now struck, and then look what happened right after that. 2 earthquakes to the east, striking into the New Madrid seismic zone again. 2.1, 2.3, striking over to the east. This is all since last night. So the mid-craton movement, the mid-plate movement we were talking about occurred, and then it pressed to the east, just as we'd expect, with lesser movement, now striking the New Madrid seismic zone. And I don't know if this is going to be something we're going to have to watch out for over the next several weeks, but it seems that it's catching here now, as opposed to transferring down to the fracking operations near Tuscaloosa. It's going more due east. The pressure is transferring straight from Oklahoma eastward into the New Madrid seismic zone. Then it's further going up the east coast and releasing in smaller earthquakes, 1s and 2s, onesies, up in the northeast. And let's go ahead and show that to you here. Or it might not show it on this feed here. No, it sure won't. Okay, we're only looking at 2.5 and greater. So you just won't see it on any feed here since it happened yesterday and it's smaller than 2.5. Really quick, we'll turn on the European agency. They show us other earthquakes that the USGS is not showing. And we'll back this out, just see if compare to anything else around the planet. And we got our European activity, which again we'll get into Europe in a second. I just want to verify that we're seeing the same earthquakes no matter which feed we're looking at. Are there any smaller earthquakes that the USGS is not reporting? And luckily this time, I can happily report, looks like they match up. So we jump back over and we'll look at the last 24 hours, and this will show us all the small earthquakes, the 0.0s and greater. And we're going to get into California again because the swarm in Southern California is carrying on. Last 24 hours, take a look at it, and now you can see multiple stacks of earthquakes, not just 1 or 2. Let's count them, actually. Starting to the north, we have a stack of earthquakes at Mount St. Helens. Further to the south, due south of there, we have 1 earthquake at Mount Shasta. Looks like it's that 1.7, so a small earthquake at Mount Shasta. Further to the south, the large stack of earthquakes here at Clear Lake Volcano and Geyser Peak Volcano, the geothermal pumping operation. To the east, the smaller earthquakes, 2.1, 0.8, and 0.6, struck at east of Lassen, or at Lassen Peak, which is Lassen Volcano. To the east of Lake Tahoe, there's a series of volcanic buttes, some of which are unnamed. We looked those up yesterday. I'm not going to bother you with that now. To the north of there, Bittner Butte struck near Blowout Mountain. To the east, Range 61 volcanic buttes struck yet again. To the south, this is all in the last day, guys. To the south, each one having a swarm too, not just one, like most of these, look at them. Okay, stacks of earthquakes. So another small swarm breaking out near Mammoth Mountain and Mono Lake yet once again. And then to the west, San Francisco, south along the fault line, directly along the fault zone, going down to north of the pumping operation. So the fault zone now showing movement. We talked about that this morning and a little bit last night, that now the magma chambers are fanning up, the pressure's fanning out from the magma chambers and causing fault zone movement. Further to the south, the most recent earthquake, the 1.7, striking very close to the pumping operation, again where the pipeline ruptured, and then you go northeast of there and we start getting it back into the actual fracking and pumping operations. Due south of there, another swarm, again at Salton Sea directly, to the northwest of Salton Sea, I should say, and then a little bit northwest of the spot to the northwest. So we have two swarms now on top of each other. If you were to add these together, this would stack up into one fairly large stack of earthquakes, but it's spread out now over 30 miles. And not just going in a line, but in a circle again, so, or more in a oval shape. So we're talking about that magma chamber finally moving again. What does it mean? It means more swarms are going to develop, and the larger earthquake that we're looking for will strike in the next day or two, most likely. Maybe 3 to 4 at the most, but I'm leaning more towards the next few days. Now the Craton movement to the east lets us know also Yellowstone struck and a location in central Utah, which I have no clue what's there. As a matter of fact, that's the only location here where I'm not really knowing what's there. So maybe we should open up a copy of Google Earth and go look that up live for everybody here in chat, including myself. There may be nothing there. There may be something there. The only way to know is to look it up and find out, right? So let's do that. Let's quickly look it up. We'll pull the coordinates from the USGS, and this may nix out your view on the view count for a second, number of people watching the video. Okay, we'll copy that out, and let me bring you over here and turn this on for you to see, and we'll put the coordinates in. Recommend you do this for any earthquake that stands out, or if you want to just find out what's causing the earthquake at the epicenter. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you'll find a real answer as to what's causing it. So let's just take a look. What do we have? I mean, let's see, within one county to the west, it looks like we have some volcanoes, Coyote Knolls, but right in here, nothing marked. That doesn't mean there's no volcanoes, it just means there's nothing marked, which is fairly, oh, look at this. Well, 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 I'll be darned. Look at that. Everybody knows what that is, right? Do you know what this is? In case you don't know what that is, that's a oil well, a pump. Look at the size of this pumping operation going right up to the foothills. I bet there's some even more back in there that just aren't readily viewable. Low resolution back in the mountains, but definitely down right at the foothills. Goes right up to the foothills. Look at that. Isn't that great? Well, now we know what's causing our earthquake there. Small earthquake, but nonetheless, pumping operation right there. Oh, we got a street there. I wonder if we have a street level view. Nope. All right. Well, back it out. each one of these little square pads, you may have to full screen it to really get a better idea of what we're looking at here, but each one of the square pads is a different drill point. And that creates a weak spot in the crust that allows for pressure to transfer up and out through or nearby one of the areas that's being punctured. So just northwest, our nearest well going right up to the fringe. When's this date? 2015, so it's been a year. They could easily have more out there. But here's one of the closer wells. Glad we went and looked it up, right? Okay, well, now we know what's there. Maybe we should even mark it so we know in the future another earthquake strikes there. We'll just put a place mark right there and call it fracking operation. Okay, well, you got to see it real time live. That's why we look it up. Let's go back over and review the rest of the quakes. So pumping operation there, volcano to the north, all the volcanoes that I just mentioned to the west, all showing activity. And now look, South Nevada. Go back and watch the earthquake forecast from 4.5 days ago, where we're talking about new movement striking over in South Nevada. And there it is, just north of Las Vegas. I'm kind of curious what's there too. I would venture a guess that there's some kind of volcanic activity associated with this, that there's an old dormant volcano there. Caliente, Nevada. Let's go see what's there, since I got you on here, and I don't really know what's there. All the other locations we know, but you know, out here in Nevada, out here in Utah, not normally struck, especially near Las Vegas. So let's kick this back on and go search it out for you so you can see what's there, if anything. Oh, well, look at that. It's the location where the largest 5.4 struck in the past, the largest earthquake to strike in the last several years. It struck the day that San Andreas was released, the movie, or the day before? The day before San Andreas was released, that movie about the earthquake striking near Hoover Dam, this 5.4 struck there. And of course, you know, I mean, it's South Nevada, so it's fairly close to Hoover Dam, relatively speaking. But let's go ahead and see what else we have there, because there must be something at this location other than a fault zone for this amount of activity to be taking place there. Might take some serious investigation on the parts of the people who... Oh, okay, there's range 61 again. Okay. Okay. So not too far away is our range 61 earthquakes. It's several miles, but oh, look what we have right here, right in between the two. Well, well, well. Okay, we have an old unnamed volcanic butte, and there's no doubt about it. We can zoom in on this, and you can make out the old basalt that makes this up. The old top on this undersea flow, most likely formed undersea at some point. You can see the tufts that make that up. You can see the coloration difference definitely in the desert. And there's a few more over here. Let's bring it back north. Is there anything else even closer? How many miles is that? Let's just find out. Well, that's 15 kilometers, so miles is 9 miles. Close enough to be of interest. With all the other activity striking there, there's got to be something else going on, or at least when you look at the area surrounded by volcanoes, but nothing actually labeled there. Makes me think that they just haven't labeled the volcanoes in this location, even though there are some. So we'll have to inspect the area more, but that's okay. Again, that's why we look it up now. So there it is. Okay, so that's the activity to strike on the West Coast today. It's a lot of activity, isn't it? Well, what's it pointing towards? Well, all the volcanoes, all the pumping operations, and now the fault zones are moving. This means the area off the coast is under serious pressure, and it should release with an earthquake that's at least 1 magnitude larger than the largest of the bunch that we're seeing here strike now. So if you add it all together, I'm thinking it should be in the 5.0 range, or swarm of fours, a couple fours, multiple fours striking off the coast, and it would be in the silent zone that we talked about last night in the Q&A, which is the Juan de Fuca here off the northwest. And we go down into the Blanco fracture zone right near the previous earthquake swarm location from a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, which struck near the Blanco fracture zone. And of course, and the cleft segment, that's another location that we would need to watch right next to each other, right here at the bend of Juan de Fuca. Internationally speaking, let's just quickly jump into what's going on to watch for in the rest of the West Pacific. And of course, the swarm carries on over here in South Russia, West China, North India, North Kazakhstan, and it's picking up even more. You would expect this to die out at some point, meaning there's most likely going to be additional movement in a nearby area to this spot, and this spot is just letting us know it's carrying on moving, which means the areas nearby should move in the next few days. And it should be similar size, so we might be looking at some 5 activity striking over to the east in Nepal and to the west, as far west as Caspian Sea and Turkey. Let's turn on the European feed really quick. Get into the smaller earthquakes in Europe. This is going to show us the spots that have moved versus the spots that should move. And you may remember we issued a warning telling people to watch North Italy, also watch Rome, also watch over to the east near Bosnia. Well, Rome was struck last night, or this morning. Then North Italy was struck. Then we saw more activity strike in France. Now South France and the area to the east has been struck. So this whole region is moving now as we would expect. And we have to watch now for movement to the north. Similar size, so it's not going to be too big. Should be in the upper 2, lower 3.0 range. If it goes any higher than upper 3, I'll have to issue a correction, but I'm more leaning towards that 3.0 range to the north. Again, compensation movement that travels across Europe. They say that's impossible, but it happens right before our eyes every single week. One other thing, let's go ahead and turn on the the British Geological Survey. It's going to show us our British earthquakes because there's no data sharing, right? So the EMSE is not getting the British feed, but you can see more 3.0 activity striking to the north, and again, that follows the other activity that struck over the past few days, reaching up and across England towards Iceland. Still watching for Hekla to erupt, and Iceland is right here. Pressure always transfers towards Iceland up through Europe, and it comes up from the south where we just looked at all those earthquakes to the south. So it's something to pay attention to, that your 3.0 activity is not enough to cause much damage. Of course, people might not even feel it if it strikes out to sea, but if it strikes on land, could shake things up a little bit. And if it goes above 3.5 up into the 4.0 range, then it really does shake things, and people do get worried when that stuff strikes. So it's something to watch out for now. I'm not saying it's going to happen with the 4s. It should stay in the 3s. I'll issue a correction or an update if things change. If we see a larger earthquake in South Europe, for instance, that'll switch everything up. But as it stands right now, that's good news compared to what we saw over the past several days. Now, let's also turn on the last 7 days of USGS 2.5 and greater, and quickly look over Central America and South America. For all of my South American viewers, they are now translating my videos into Spanish. So this portion should be translated into Spanish, or at least hopefully. And when we look at this, you can see Central America and South America has began to swarm out over the past few days. Last 2 days especially, Mexico, Popo, the volcano, erupted, and Turrialba and Paos volcanoes erupted in Costa Rica. 5.7 struck, 4.5, 4.3 south of the Gulf of California. Colombia near Venezuela's border struck, and South Ecuador struck. What does it all mean? Well, there's a silent area in the middle where the volcanoes erupted, just going south into Colombia and Ecuador. That location should experience one more volcanic eruption in the next few days. Most likely by this coming weekend at the latest, we will see a new eruption occurring. And since we already saw a blast at Turrialba and Paos, we're most likely looking somewhere just a little bit north. And again, that takes us back up into maybe Mexico, possibly for a new volcanic eruption, maybe further south in El Salvador. And which volcano? We don't know. It'll be a sudden blast. It'll be just like the others. It'll come after we see this other movement translate out coming from the northwest. Now further south, we have the silent zone right here off the coast of Peru, going down into Bolivia, West Bolivia, and North Chile. That's again the spot we are watching for a larger earthquake to strike, 1 magnitude larger than the largest of the bunch so far. So we're looking at 6.0 range striking in the silent zone from South Ecuador across Peru into North Chile over the next few days, again by the end of the week. The earthquake forecast is on my channel. You guys can go watch that. You can catch up with all the areas that are being hit now versus the areas that we were watching. The color coding on Earthquake 3D shows us the darker red earthquakes are older, and the lighter earthquakes going up to white are the youngest. So you can clearly see the areas that moved versus the areas that are moving now. And the areas that are moving now are the areas that were warned to move for this week. So you can see the progression. It's gone up through North Japan with the lighter earthquakes going across North Japan into Kuril Islands. Also going west, we have the swarms still carrying on, but then translating further west over here into the South Europe, South Turkey, South Greece location. It all means the earthquakes are coming from the West Pacific, and it all stems from the deep earthquakes down below that are causing the movement to begin with. So the deep earthquakes down below the West Pacific caused the shallow movement to spread out across the whole plate, come over to the United States, Central America, South America. The Pacific is the main player. It also pushes over to Europe and is ultimately causing our movement on the mid-Atlantic. Flies in the face of modern day geology, but there it is, guys. So I apologize for the late delay tonight. Couldn't help it. I was on the highway at 10 p.m. I'm just kind of flooring it. I'm like, oh, God, there's no way I'm going to make it. There's no point in getting a ticket. If you're going to be late, might as well be late. So please understand, I try to do this at the behest of my viewers to do these daily updates. And I want to welcome everybody in here who's new. If you haven't been in here before, again, I do forecasts once a week. Then we document it throughout the week here on this live stream. I get on here every night and do an update. And lately, I've been doing a Q&A, question and answer session afterwards. Usually 1 hour after, I'll get back on and answer questions for an hour or 2 hours sometimes. So if you have questions, you guys can come back in within an hour from now, and I will answer. One more thing. I want to thank the Dutch Squad Earthquake Group for getting all the information out. The people who have joined Dutch Squad EQ over on Facebook. If you guys aren't a member and you want to be, it's a closed group. You have to ask to join. We ask that there's no trolling, of course. You have plenty of places to troll. That will not be one of them. And again, I want to thank everybody who's involved with that because I couldn't do it without you. As a matter of fact, I'm not doing it. You guys are doing it. I'm just the catalyst for making it happen at this point. And I like giving you guys a place to come so you can come chat, come talk to each other, review earthquakes. That's what this is all for. And again, your guys' support, your sharing of my work. If you haven't done it, please share it. And if you haven't given, maybe if you like my work and you like my research, you're into earthquake forecasting, the fundraiser's still running for an additional 15 days. And today we broke $15,000. I only asked for 8, and we're at 15. If we hit 16, obviously that's double what I asked for. And in exchange for that, I'm here each day. I'm trying to be here each night to do the live updates and the Q&A sessions, that kind of stuff. Also the videos and the forecast and writing the book and doing the experiments. That's a nice little full platter for me for the whole summer and fall for sure. So again, I want to thank everybody who's given. If you haven't yet, the link is down below for that as well, down below in the description box. So you're watching this video now, there's a description down below. And it's got a link in there for the fundraiser. If you want to share it or if you want to give, that's totally cool. No pressure, whatever. Thanks to everybody who has given. Man, awesome. So overall, there's the earthquakes. We'll get back into it in about an hour with some questions and answers. Hope you guys got a better grasp of what's happened since last night. Again, California, we're watching for the movement off the coast. It's coming. It's there. I mean, really, when you look at the activity that struck, here, take a look at the activity over the past day and a half, over 2.5. Do you see this? The progression of earthquakes going all the way up the coast? Well, look where it's stopping. It's stopping there, right there off the coast where we warned, off Oregon. And that means there's a silent zone where pressure is building and it's pushing currently all the way down the coast, causing almost similar size earthquakes, proving that nearly 1,000 miles is being uplifted at the same magnitude at the same depth relatively too. When you look at the depth on these, they're all almost at the exact same depth, meaning that the whole coast has been pressed up from underneath, and that leads to a larger earthquake off the coast within a few days of that movement happening now. So that's what you watch for. The two spots to watch: silent zone to the north, silent zone to the south. And again, the silent zone to the south is at the California-Nevada border going south into Arizona, maybe as far south as Baja, but I'm more leaning towards, again, like I said, Nevada-California border for the southern portion of that movement. Northern portion is going to be the silent zone, Juan de Fuca, off the coast. If it strikes on land, I'll have to issue a correction. Of course, I hope I'm wrong entirely and that it's just released with a small swarm or whatever, nothing strikes at all. But, that's not going to happen. You don't see this kind of movement happen without other compensation movement occur nearby. So that's what you know to expect, and it's going to be the next few days. The forecast already told you that 4 days ago. So you already knew 4 days ago to watch for this. Now it's happening. So there you go. Again, thanks to everybody for being in here. I'll be back in 1 hour from now.